Today I'm going to make the matching necklace to the set of earrings and ring that we made in the last tutorial called the princess set. This will be the princess set necklace. Now let me show you what this looks like. Back off a little bit. It's just kind of a drop pendant, and the entire backside necklace part is embellished with crystal. I can't get it in the camera very well, so my camera doesn't zoom out well. It just stays pretty close. So let me see if I can just kind of arrange it so you can see the whole thing here. So this is what the entire back side of the necklace looks like. And this is what the front side looks like. And that's what it looks like. And made this about 20 inches long. And you can make it longer or shorter just by making the back part a little less units. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at what it takes to make this necklace. Okay, so for this project today, we are going to use some 4mm Bicone crystals. I'm using it in the rose double AB, the same as I did for my earrings and ring. And then I have just put out a few 11-0 seed beads in case I want them. I'm going to design this as I'm doing this, and I'm not sure if I want 11-0 or not. But I will for sure be using my gold and my silver 8-0s like we did in the component before, and the 15-0s. And these are all Toho seed beads, and all of the silver ones are galvanized aluminum Toho permanent finish. And the gold is Starlight gold finish, permanent finish Toho also. And then we're going to be using some 2x3 Roundels, or you can use 3mm Bicones. And I'll have to put a few more out. I just have a couple out for now. And then 15-0 seed beads. And we will be using a little toggle clasp. And you will need 3 of your 8mm Bicones. And I said last time they're tanzanite. I think they're amethyst is what they are. I don't think they're the tanzanite. They're not violet. Well, a little bit. I don't know. They're either tanzanite or amethyst. I don't know. They're just some of my leftover beads, and this project was made to use them up because I don't like to leave stuff laying around without putting it to use somehow. So anyway, that's what we're going to be using. You will also need a component made for this one because I am not going to show you how to make the component in this one. I'm going to refer you back to the earrings and ring tutorial since I make the component in there. You will make one component just like you did on the earrings tutorial, and you will sew around it and come out of the 8-0 seed bead on the very top of your base unit, making sure that your bicone is vertical. So if you come out of one of these other sides, your bicone is going to be horizontal. Now if you want it that way, that's fine, but I want mine vertical because that's how I built the rest of my set, was with vertical bicone. So when you make your component, start with 2 wingspans at least of thread, or whatever's comfortable to you if you intend to extend. Start with a long span of thread. I started with a little shorter one, but I will extend it. And then come out of the top of the bicone here, and we will get started. Okay. So I have put a very long thread onto my component here, and we will get started with this one component. Like I said, coming out of an 8-0 seed bead that's on the corner where your bead will be, in the center will be vertical. So now I am going to start by picking up, I will pick up an 15-0 seed bead, then I will pick up a 4mm bicone, then I will pick up a 8-0 seed bead, and I think I'm going to do it in gold, and then a 4mm bicone, an 8-0 seed bead, a 4mm bicone, and a 15-0. So this is what you're going to have on your needle. 15-0, 4mm, 8-0, 4mm, 15 or 8-0, 4mm, and 15-0, just like this. Now I am coming out of the side of my component right here, and I'm just going to go into the other side, and I'm going to avoid all my I'm going to avoid the 15-0 on the other side here. So I'm just going to pull this up. I'm going to turn it around this way because I will be turning my film around, so it'll be right for you guys. And we are going to, at this point, sew back through this unit. So I'm just going to sew through the whole thing, 15 O's included, on the bottom here until I get into the 8-0 seed bead that I've connected to on my unit, just like this. Okay, so I'm coming out of my 8-0 on my component, and I am going to pick up two 15-0 seed beads, and then I'm going to pick up a 4mm Bicone crystal, and then I'm going to pick up two more 15-0 seed beads. And I am coming out of the 8-0 on the unit, so I'm going to go directly up into the 4mm Bicone crystal on the very top here and pull this down. Bring the beads over the top of the other beads here, and then I'm going to pick up two 15-0 seed beads, and I'm going to come back down through the crystal and pull my little beads down. Now this can get messy if you're not careful, so just do this slowly and kind of try to retain your tension as you do it. Then pick up two more 15-0 seed beads and go through the same side of the 8-0, same side of the crystal that you came out of here, go into the same side of the 8-0 on the bottom here, on the one on your component, and pull this down. And this is what you should have. Now, get a little closer so you can see it. Now we're going to sew up. We will be doing one side of the necklace at a time. We will have to tie back on to do the other side. I hate to have to tie on, but I didn't leave a long tail on my component, so I'm going to tie on. Now, if you haven't made your component yet, and you don't want to have to tie on, maybe just extend, just leave a long tail, and then you can extend your tail for your component and come up through. Otherwise, just follow what I'm going to do, and we'll tie on when we do the second half. Now, I'm going to come up through this 15-0 here and the 4mm Bicone. And I'm going to come up into this 8-0 seed bead right here. We back off just a little bit and pull my thread through. I am going to pick up 8 8-0 seed beads. I'm coming out of this side of the 8-0. I'm going to go into the other side. Now, I'm going to sew through all of these beads again, all the way around. Then I'm going to come down into the bead I'm connecting to. Like so. Now we are going to pick up two 15-0 seed beads and an 8mm Bicone crystal and two 15-0 seed beads. We are now going to go into, we're going to count these 8-0s from one side of the Bicone crystal. So let me get close so you can see what I'm talking about. We are coming out of this 8-0 seed bead here. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, and then go into the fourth 8-0 right here, and the one behind it, the fourth and the fifth 8-0, and pull the crystal down like so. And then we're going to pick up two 15-0 seed beads. we're going to come through the 8mm crystal and pull, and make sure you get pretty good tension on that, and then pick up 2 more 15-0 seed beads and go back through the 8-0 you started in between the Bicone crystals, the little 4mm Bicone crystals. Come through there and pull like so. Now we're going to go ahead and make the other side with the big Bicone too, and then we'll sew back through and come to this side. That way when we sew on and tie on, we have a unit to kind of sew around. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of this 8-0, I'll turn it over so you can see I'm coming out of this 8-0 between the Bicone crystals. I'm going to sew up into this Bicone and exit this 8-0. So let's sew up into the Bicone here. And then sew into the 8-0 here. And then make sure your embellishment is nice and tight on your last unit, and then begin your next one. So pick up 8, and I'm using my gold, pick up 8 8-0 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like this. I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side. And pull them around like so. Now I'm going to sew around all of these again to secure them, because this is what's going to attach the rest of our necklace, so we want it to be nice and secure and neat, not floppy. Let me back off a little bit. So I'm just going to sew into all of them. Go back into the connecting bead that I started in, like so. Now I'm going to pick up 2 15-0 seed beads and an 8mm Bicone crystal. And then I'm going to pick up 2 15-0 seed beads. Now you're going to count your beads on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go into the 4th and the 5th 8-0 seed bead right here. Pull your Bicone crystal over the top. Let it kind of fall down between the 8-0s in the loop you made. Just a little bit. It won't fall completely in there, but just a little bit. And then pick up 2 more 8-0s, or not 8-0s, 15-0s, like this. Come back into the 8mm Bicone crystal. Pull your thread down. Pick up 2 more 15-0s. Go back into the connecting 8-0 seed bead that you started in on the same side that you're working on. Like so. Now it looks kind of strange right now, but hopefully it won't stay strange. Now we are going to turn this over so we can see. And this is what we've got. We're coming out of this 8-0. I'm going to sew back up around all of these 8-0s, making sure that my embellishment, my crystal in the front with my 15-0s, does not get loose. So I'm holding on to it, and I want to make sure, because this is going to secure the top of it. So make sure everything is nice and in place, and then sew back up through all of these. When you get to the 4th and 5th, make sure you go through them together so that you don't separate them. Then we're going to sew into the connecting 8-0 right here. Then we're going to go down into the 4mm Bicone, the 15-0, and the 8-0 on the component itself. Then we're going to sew through the 15-0 and the 4mm Bicone and the 8/0 on your new little loop that you just made. Get back into the component we started in. You're going to sew all the way up to the 4th and 5th bead again. Just like so. And turn it over. See what we've got here. Make sure everything's nice and neat and looks halfway decent here. And that's what you should have so far, just like that. Now we are going to start adding components this way up. So we are going to use 8 beads per unit. And with the 8 beads, we are going to use 8/0 seed beads. We will need, since we have 2 of them here on our unit starting with, we will need to pick up 6. There will be 8 per component, however, or per unit. However, we've already got 2 we're sharing, so we're just going to pick up 6 onto our needle. And then we're coming out of these 2 on this side. We're going to go back into these 2 on this side. And then we're going to sew back through them 2 at a time. Like so. And this is what you should have. Now, we're coming out of these 2 8/0s that connect to the first unit we made here. What we are going to do is pick up a Bicone crystal, an 11/0 seed bead. Actually, pick up a 15/0 seed bead, a Bicone crystal, an 11/0 seed bead, a Bicone crystal, and a 15/0 seed bead. Like so. You're coming out of these 2 beads right here on your unit. Come into the opposite side of those 2 beads and pull these beads down. Now, this is what you should have. Sew up through the 2 sides. So you're coming out of the 2 you started in, the 2 little beads you started in, the 2 8/0s. You're going to come up into the 2 right next to where your thread is coming out, and then go into the 2 top right here. 2 at a time, because I want to square this off a little bit. Now, it's not going to work perfectly, but it's better than just squishing them all together when you're coming through. Now you will pick up a 15/0 seed bead, a 4mm Bicone crystal, a 15/0 seed bead, or excuse me, just a 15/0 seed bead and a 4mm Bicone crystal, and you will come down into the 11/0 between the 2 4mm Bicone crystals on your unit. Now it's all loose and funny. We'll get it tightened up here in a minute. See if I can get it tightened up anyway. Okay. Now I'm going to pick up a 4mm Bicone crystal and a 15/0, and I'm going to come down into the 2 that I started in right here and pull like so. Now, I'm not really sure I like the way this is laying, so I am going to sew back up through it. So I'm going to sew down through these 2 side 8/0s. I'm going to come down into the 2 connecting beads I started in. I'm going to come up through the 15/0 right here. I'm doing exactly what I just did. I'm just going to tighten this embellishment on top because I'm not I'm not real happy with it. Then I'm going to go through this 11-0 here, back through this 4mm bicone here, and the 15-0 on the other side of it. Here, pull. Then I'm going to sew back down into the unit underneath, and see that pulled that nice and tight and neat. Now, if yours turned out neat the first time, then great. But if it didn't, sew back up through them and just make them lay the way you want them to. And then come up through the side beads. I'm coming out of the 2 right here. I'm going to go up into these 2 here and just get back up to my top beads so I can continue with my units. Go through this 15-0. Or actually, I don't need to go through that 15-0. I'm just going to go through the 2 8-0s here. Okay, so we're coming out of these 2 8-0 seed beads here. Now we are going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and an 8-0 in gold and 2 11-0, and I'm using silver in my 11-0, just like this. And then we're going to go into the opposite side from which our thread is exiting. So we're coming out here, we're going in here, and we're going to pull these beads down like so. Just like this, you have a little loop. Now you're going to sew back up into this, all of these beads. We're just going to secure them because this first unit likes to pull out of whack here. So we're just going to sew back through all of these beads, back into the 2 8-0s we started in, avoiding the little 15-0s on either side of it. Those are part of the top embellishment here, so don't get those. Now, this is nice and tight. We're going to come up into the 2 11-0s and the 8-0 in the center and exit the 8-0, just like so. Now we will pick up 2 11-0s and another gold 8-0 and 2 11-0s like this. And we're coming out of this side of the 8-0, we're going to go into the opposite side and pull it down. Now you can sew all the way around this unit again if you feel like they're going to be loose. If you don't like the way they're looking, then that's fine. You can secure them down very well if you want to. Right now we're going to try to do this by just coming up through the 11-0s, keeping our tension good, go up through the 8-0. Like this. Then we will make another unit. Pick up 2 11-0s and an 8-0 and 2 11-0s. And you're coming out of this side, going to the opposite side. Like so. And then sew back through the 2 11-0s and up into the 8-0 on the side that you're exiting from. So just come up these 2 11-0s and exit your center 8-0. And continue making these little units. We're just going to keep doing this with the 2 11-0s and the 8-0, these little units for 50 units. Now, I say 50 units, however, you can make as many units as you want. This is going to be the length of your necklace. Mine is going to be right about 20 inches with my clasping. This is about 19.5 inches from the center of my pendant to the end of the units I have made. If you want to make a smaller necklace, you'll do less of these units. If you want to make a longer necklace, you will make more of these units. And I have made 50, counting from the very bottom one that I started in. I just count the holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until I have 50 of them. Now I'm coming out of the top of this 8-0 seed bead right here. I'm going to put my clasping on. Now, the way we're going to move through this, I was going to embellish as I made these units, but then I decided to change my mind and work my way back down so that I don't actually have to tie on when I get down here. I can sew over to this side and come back up, make my units, and then sew back down with the embellishments. That way I don't have to tie another thread onto this side, which will make my necklace stronger. If you have to tie on, that can be a weak point. So I am going to do it this way in hopes that I won't have to add another thread. So what we're going to do now is we're coming out of this 8/0 here, and we're going to pick up 2 11/0 seed beads, and then a 2x3 crystal roundel, and an 11/0, like this. And then I'm going to pick up my clasp, and I'm going to come through my clasp and drop it down. Then I'm going to pick up an 11/0, and I'm going to come down through my little crystal, and just the crystal, and pull this down. You can pull it, and so it's pretty much flush against the 11/0s. Because of the way we've done this, we can sew back through it fairly easily. Then we'll pick up 2 more 11/0 seed beads onto our needle like this, and then we will go into the other side of the 8/0 from which we started, down here. So we're coming out of the crystal, go into this 8/0, and pull. Now I'm going to sew back through this unit, anchoring it to this 8/0 seed bead several times to secure my clasp, and then we will be back. Okay, I have secured my clasp, and I'm now coming out of this 8/0 right here. Now make sure when you do this next step that your necklace is laying with the face of the pendant up, and that all of your units are laying flat, so that you don't twist your chain part as you put the next embellishment on. We want to make sure that the embellishment ends up on the front and not on the back. So just make sure it's not twisted or upside down. Now, you can, if you want to save on crystal, you can sew down through these units till you get to about, well, I don't know, 25 from the pendant up, and you can start your embellishment there if you'd like. That will save on some of your crystal. I am going to start from the top here, and like I said, if you don't want to do that, then all you will do is, so you're coming out of this 8/0, you'll sew down to these 11/0, sew into the 8/0, sew down into the 11/0, sew down into the 8/0, sew down into the 11/0. You get the gist. Just follow your thread path and go all the way down to the point to where you want to start your crystal embellishment. I'm going to start in this unit right here. I'm going to pick up a 15/0 seed bead and a crystal and a 15/0 seed bead. I'm coming out of this side of the 8/0. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0. Now you can anchor them down like we did in the pendant, coming out of either side with 15/0s, so that it looks like it's prong set, but I think I want to just, since I have so many to do, I think I want to just go diagonal like this. Just like that. And then I'm coming out of this 8/0, so now I will pick up a 15/0, a Roundel crystal, and a 15/0. I'm coming out of this side of this 8/0 here. I'm going to go down into the opposite 8/0 on the opposite side and just go through it and pull my embellishment down. I'm going to continue doing this the entire length. 15/0, Roundel, 15/0. I'm coming out of this side. I am now going to go into this side of the 8/0. Make sure you don't get any of the 11/0s. Pull your thread through and anchor it down nice and neat, just like that. And we're going to do this the entire length. When we get down to the bottom, in our very last one, we'll be back. Okay, so I have put my embellishment all the way to the very end. I'm coming out of this 8/0 right before my little embellishment with crystals here, with my 4mm Bicone crystals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my last rondelle on. I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and a rondelle and a 15-0. I've got this last little loop here. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of this side right here. I'm going to go into these two 8-0 seed beads on the opposite side from which I'm coming out of this 8-0. So I'm going to find these two 8-0s and I'm going to slide through them and try to avoid these little 15-0s on either side of it. And then I'm just going to pull this last little crystal into place on top of my beads here, like so. Make sure your embellishment is nice and tight, there's no slack, your 15-0s are scooted up next to the crystal and not down on the 8-0s, and then turn your piece over. Now we're going to sew down through this entire side so we can get over to this side. We want to exit these two 8-0 seed beads over here so we can start making our embellishment, or well, we'll have to make our unit with our 4mm bicones, and then we'll make the units that we've just made and embellish them. So now we're coming out of the beads here. We're going to go down into these two side beads right here. Just follow your original thread path and work your way back over to the other side. So I'm going to go down these two bottom beads in my little unit here. Then I'm going to go down all three of these beads here. Then I'm going to go into this 8-0 seed bead here and this crystal right next to it, right here. Then I'm going to go into the 8-0 that connects this next 8mm bicone unit on. So I'm going to put this here, go through it. Then I'm going to sew up all three of these and exit these two. So we'll just sew up all three of these beads right here. And then I will go through these two top ones right here. And this is where I want to be to start my next unit. So we have to make this unit, we have to make the base first. So we have to pick up 6 8-0 seed beads. I'm going to pick them up in the gold color again. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're coming out of this side here. We're going to go into the opposite side of the two beads through both of them and pull like so. Now I'm going to sew up through all of these beads again, 2 at a time, to just kind of square them off and get them secure. And doing it this way, we now do not have to tie onto the side of the necklace to make it, and I really prefer that. If you can keep one working thread going through it, it's a lot stronger. So now we're coming out of these two 8-0 seed beads right here. We're going to pick up a 15-0. If I can pick one up on my needle. Geez Louise, come here. 15-0, bicone crystal, 11-0, bicone crystal, and 15-0. Like this. We're coming out of this side of these two little 8-0 seed beads. You're going to go into the opposite side of both of them again and pull your thread through them, like so. Now I did not like the way that it worked last time, so what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to sew up these side ones here. Can't really remember what I did last time, but you can always sew back through them if they don't lay correctly. So then I'm going to come up through these two. Then I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, and I'm going to come through this 11-0 right here. I'm going to hold on to my beads so they don't go all over the place. Then I'm going to pick up another bicone crystal, and I'm going to go through the two beads and a 15-0, And I'm going to go through these 2 beads again, avoiding the 15-0 on the other side there, and pull it down. Now that turned out much better. I don't think I need to re-sew through there. I just want to make sure it stays nice and tight. I think maybe I will sew through here one more time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these little side beads here. I'm just going to sew through the first 2 that I put on here. So I'm going to come up through the 15-0 seed bead, back up through my crystal. Then I'm going to come through this 11-0 in the center here, come back down through this bicone and the 15-0 on the other side of it. Then I'm going to come back down through the 2 8-0 seed beads underneath. I'm going to pull it tight. Now that's really pretty secure. So I'm going to turn it over, and I am going to sew up through these 2 right here, and then up through these 2 here again. And this is where we will begin our little units, 50 of them, with our 11-0s and the 1 8-0. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 2 11-0s, an 8-0, and 2 11-0s. We're coming out of this side, we're going to go into the opposite side. We are going to pull this thread through like so. And then I'm going to sew through this one more time because this is my base connecting bead or unit, and I want to make sure that my necklace isn't going to fall apart or break right here. So I'm going to sew through it again. All of these beads I just added. Back through the 8-0s on the unit we just made. I'm going to turn it back over. I'm going to sew up until I exit the 8-0 seed bead here. Then I will begin again with 2 11-0s. Come here. 8-0 and 2 11-0s. Like this. I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into this side of the 8-0 and pull these down. Make sure you pull them down nice and neat. Your tension is good. Turn it over here so I can get to it better. I'm going to sew up into the 2 11-0s here, and then into the 8-0. And I'm going to continue doing this and work my way all the way to the top. 2 11-0s, 8-0, 2 11-0s, like so. Go into the 8-0 on the opposite side. Make sure you pull them tight and neat. Go up through the 2 11-0s, you're closest to where your needle's coming out. Up through the 8-0. Continue doing this until you have 50 units, counting the hole. Make sure you count the first one here too. And just count the holes as you go up. And once you get to the top, we'll put our clasp on and work our way back down with our roundels. Be back as soon as we get 50 units. Okay, so I have made my 50 units, counting just the hole in the middle as I work my way up. And now I have all of them, and I am ready to begin my clasping on this side and then work my way back down with my embellishments. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of this 8-0 seed bead. Just like on the other side, we're going to pick up 2 11-0s, a crystal, and an 11-0. And we're going to go through the clasp here. Now, because this is sideways, we're just going to go back through the 11-0. Instead of adding another one, we're going to go back through the 11-0. My clasping is a little bit different on this side than on this side. As you can see, I had the the hole here, the loop, is vertical up and down this way. This way it's laying horizontal against my bead pad on this one. So I'm going through the clasp, down through the 11-0 and the crystal both. And I'm going to pull this against my beads, like so. And then I'm going to pick up 2 more 11-0 seed beads, and I'm going to go into the 8-0 that I am attaching to on the opposite side from which I started, and pull. Now I'm going to sew back through this entire thing several times, so I'll just go back up through all my beads, and then through my clasp and back down. I'm going to do this about 3 times, and then we will start our embellishments. So go ahead and sew through your clasping, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've secured the side of my clasp. Now I'm coming out of this little 8-0 seed bead that I attached my clasping to, and I'm going to begin with my embellishment with my roundel. So I'll pick up a 15-0, a roundel, and a 15-0. I'm coming out of this side of the 8-0. I'm going to go into the opposite 8-0 and the opposite side, and I'm going to pull my bead down, like so. Then I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a roundel, and a 15-0. Coming out of this side of this 8-0, I'm going to go into the opposite 8-0 and in the opposite side and pull my clasping down, like so. Now pull my crystal down. We're going to do this all the way till we get to the very last unit next to our pendant, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my entire side of embellishments, and now I am coming out of the 8-0 down here in my last 2 8-0s in my bigger unit here. So this is clasped. Let me unclasp this and get closer, and I will show you exactly where I'm at. So I put on this crystal here. It came out of the 2 8-0s in the bigger unit, just like we did on the other side. And now I want to make sure my last embellishment is nice and tight, and I'm going to grab the thread bridge right between the beads here, and I'm going to tie a little tiny knot, just a little half hitch, and pull it down between my beads. And then I'm going to sew around these bigger beads here just to secure my thread, and go grab another knot on this side between the beads. And make sure they go down between the beads. And then I'm just going to sew around this unit. And then I'll sew down into this one here. And then back up around. And you can sew through as much as you want. You can get back up here and sew through your necklace part, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to sew through here, and I'm going to cut off, leaving a little bit extra, and I'm going to burn that down to make it another knot that won't go through my beads. And then, oopsie, and this is what the necklace looks like. Get it arranged here. And that is what it looks like. I'll arrange it real pretty and put the rest of the set with it and show you what it looks like. Let's do one little close-up on it on the bottom part here so you can see exactly what it looks like. Oopsie. There we go. And that's what that looks like. So let me go ahead and set this all up. I need to turn it all around so that it'll look the right direction for you and everything. And we'll be back. Okay, so here's what the entire set looks like. I couldn't get my little heart shape to look good. So anyway, this is what it looks like. It's really quite pretty, and I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Let's give you one more close-up of the components themselves. And there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.